The police in KwaZulu-Natal have reacted to the killing of 6 people in Umlazi by saying community structures, including community policing forums, can play a significant role in rooting out criminal elements. Now, police officers say 4 suspects stormed into a house just before midnight, shot 2 people who were inside the house. 1 person was shot inside a back room, whilst the 4th person was shot next to the outside toilet. They say that 3 of the suspects have been identified. Well, for more on this, it's bringing Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator at the Institute for Security Studies, perhaps to weigh in on these developments. Willem, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon, Liesl.
Perhaps at this point, given what has transpired and more news of the similar nature coming to the fore, how do we begin to analyze the loopholes in the crime interventions at this point? To see that justice just doesn't seem to be coming to the fore. We're looking at crime prevention strategies, security clusters that also be introduced by the police minister in KZN to curb the killings, but to date, little to no arrests have been made in regards to these killings. What's been reflected here?
Well, Liesl, I think what has been reflected is that it is clear that our crime prevention strategies of recent years has not been very effective. That we will have to look at new models, we will have to look at revising it. That on the one hand. On the other hand, we are not all lost because we have to quite good and strong regional strategies that are actually in place by SABC. It's your small arms and light weapons strategy, as well as your transnational organized crime strategy. The challenge that we have there is that South Africa has not really been very strong on implementing it. So I think that is a start. If we start from that perspective, and then we can draw from that, and we can bring that back into our local strategies as well.
So perhaps as we look at what is occurring on a macro level, given the micro dynamics unfolding in that region, what are some of the systemic issues that we also need to be addressing, perhaps to curb what's coming to the fore across the country?
Yeah, what we see in KZN, we at about 26% of the murders within the first 3 months of the year took place in KZN, 23 in Gauteng, but also we see that more than 6,000 people have been killed in the first 3 months of the year in South Africa alone. That places in the top 3 in the world when it comes to murders per 100,000 people. So that is very alarming, and that also warrants for us to look at this not only on the macro level, but also, as you mentioned, on this level. In terms of contact crimes, and that includes your robberies and all the other things that are quite violent, we saw that there were 164,000 of them that were reported in the first 3 months in the country. That gives you about every 50 seconds a crime or a violent crime has been reported in South Africa. So that is very alarming. That all boils down at the end of the day to leadership from the political level to your national level and also to your provincial and local levels. We see that KwaZulu-Natal is very fortunate in terms of a provincial level. They've got one of the stronger provincial commissioners in place. He's taking the lead, but we also see that the police seems to be overwhelmed in terms of the crime wave that is hitting South Africa. You mentioned some about the community policing that must be looked at. That is the model that South Africa has actually adopted, is your community-based policing, where your community forums, policing forums are in place. And, at the end of the day, if we can really embrace that model, it should bring a change in the country, but also in places like Umlazi.
Willem, let's get into the community models, policing models that you speak on, perhaps what they modeled against, how they operate. What are the gaps at this point as well? Is it fair to have all of the burden also placed on the community itself, given the failure or the inadequacies of the police at this point?
Well, Liesl, no, I don't think it's really unfair if you look at the model itself and how it operates. That is where the police is in the community and it's from the community. The community take hands with the police in terms of identifying, for instance, priorities on crime, prevention, etc., etc. So that is a joint venture between the community and the police. Your problem that you have nowadays is, the trust levels in the police is at an all-time low. And that is all due to various conditions on the ground. One of them is a lack of service delivery from the police, or effective service delivery in the eyes of the police. The other one is of course your corruption that is rampant within the police and also within your other state agencies. Your challenge with corruption in the police is, you don't have every policeman that is corrupted, but those who are the bad apples within the basket are those who are really spoiling the broth at the moment when it comes to the community trust with the police. If we can restore that trust and work to restore that trust, and the community take hands with the police, this is a starting point that will really make a big impact on the situation.
It's not a new phenomenon, though, and I wonder at this point what more needs to be done. How many more lives have to be lost before action is actually taken, perhaps before we see a change in what's occurring?
You are right. If you look at the past 20 years, we saw that especially serious and violent crimes have spiked in the country. Every year on year, it is spiking. And it seems to me that the political leadership is not in place in order to actually tackle this situation. That is where we have to start. We also saw some leadership challenges within the police at management level, where we've had a turnaround of national commissioners, and many of them have been, or even most of them have left under a cloud of corruption, etc., etc. So we have to look at leadership. The fish rots from the head, and that is where we have to start. Secondly, I already mentioned that we have to revise our strategies. We have to look at our TOC strategy from SADC. We have to implement it. We have to draw from that. We have to redraw our national strategies, also our provincial strategies, to come in line with that, and also to be more effective. And at the end of the day, one thing that we must remember: it is one thing having these strategies; it's another thing implementing these strategies. If we don't have that will, political as well as operational, to implement these strategies, we are going to sit 10 years from now in the same situation.
Absolutely. Willem, thank you for your time with us. Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator at the Institute for Security Studies, weighing in on that matter.